Eek! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fandom Fridays and Happy Halloween! God, I love this holiday. Oh, so much stuff to enjoy. The candies, the horror movies. Actually, scratch that. Horror movies make up 99% of my film watching schedule, along with all the cartoon movies and child movies and superhero films. But still, I love this time of year. The frights, the mask. One of those days that we can actually cosplay and we don't have to worry about it being Comic-Con. And as for me, well, I've been giving you a nice little marathon of Buffy fanfics with a couple of Supernatural crossovers flown in. But also during the week, we've been listening to an excellent werewolf story featuring our beloved Applejack. By the way, AJ, how things are going over there? Right. AJ says he's been loving it. But as for me, I want to think about something else about this time of year and talk a little bit about something that Pony has given me. You see, I'm grateful for Pony for a lot of things. It's brought me to you guys, all 14 of you, but I love all 14 of you just the same. If I could, I would give you internet hugs. It's given me Fallout Equestria and introduced me to Fallout. It brought me back to the writing scene and doing all my fics. But it's also done a little something else. See, I'm a fan of Silent Ponyville. And thanks to Silent Ponyville, I'm currently more of a fan of Silent Hill. Yes, I certainly love that psychological drama. And for the past few years now, it seems like I always do something Silent Hill related during this time. Whether it be listening to my little brother's roleplay with a bunch of game characters in Silent Hill, or listening to Linkara's latest Silent Hill review, or even just listening to a live read of Silent Ponyville, or reading Silent Ponyville again. Speaking of which, I really gotta do the third one again. But with all of that in mind, I was thinking about trying, but I haven't had a chance to do anything Silent Hill related this year. Kind of a shame, but I can fix that. After all, what is Silent Hill but a good reflection of our psychological traumas? And nobody is as hurt by the psychological terror like Buffy Summers. And, okay, why is there not a Buffy and Silent Hill crossover? Darn you! Alright, but still, we gotta think. Beyond Angel, who else would be psychologically hurt and broken enough to experience the horrors of Silent Hill? Do you hear that alarm? Do you feel that cold mist coming for you? Do you feel that chill in the air? Why, yes. You are leaving your own world behind now. You're about to enter the world of Silent Hill. Beware, dear reader, for in this world, our greatest fears are given flesh. The horrors of our past are given due punishment. The sins that we have caused before now will now fully be put on the table for us to admit. We are the cause of our own fates. Welcome, my dear reader, and dear viewer, dear listener, to Silent Hill. Welcome to the horror section of the Treeberry Memorial Library. I am your helpful reader, storyteller, and this is The Seal of Silent Hill by Crimson One. Enjoy. Part 1. Dean. Sam and Dean had been doing their best to say how high every time the angel said jump. This was the end of the world they were talking about. Little difference was allowable if it meant they kept one of the 66 seals from breaking. It was easier to respect and trust Castiel than Uriel, however. At least Castiel tried to be courteous, explain things on occasion, and treated them like more than just the lowest forms of life on Earth. Dean was glad Uriel would not be joining him this time. They were heading to some of the middle of the nowhere town by Tolka Lake. And not the Hollywood Tolka Lake with all the famous people living around it either. This Tolka Lake wasn't even on the map. Not any Dean or Sam could find. All Castiel had told him was how to get there. And Cass is going to meet us? Asked Sam. He was staring anxiously at the map they did have that seemed to have a lot of empty space at the location they were headed. Dean had been following the speed limit for the last 20 miles since he hit small town after small town. Uncle Fuzz had a tendency to stop cars they didn't know.
That's what he said. What? You thought he'd hang in the back seat the whole way?
Dean smirked. Sam shot him a look.
Oh, lighten up, Sammy.
Dean reached across and smacked Sam's thigh.
We're supposed to lie low until he comes anyway. Just get a feel for the place. No seal pretending yet. You remember Cass said he wasn't sure about this one. All fake and hard to get a feel for. Wasn't even sure what the seal was. He was going to check into some more of the lore before joining us, that's all. We'll just have to pull into the first motel we see in one of the towns around Token Lake. Camp out till Cass comes.
I guess. Sam shrugged, at last giving up on the map. It wasn't really any use, stuffing it back into the glove box. We're almost there, right? What towns are there?
I've seen a few signs. Looks like Paleville's the closest. We'll stop there. A couple miles yet.
Dean turned up the radio up a few notches as he drove. He had one of his tapes set in. Welcome to the Grand Illusion. Come on in and see what's happening. Pay the price. Get your tickets for the show. Dean was thinking it would be nice to have a quiet night. Order some pizzas, get some burgers, just stay in. Him and his brother. Like how it used to be when there weren't lies and empty time between the two brothers. So if you think your life is complete confusion because you never win the game, just remember that it's all a grand illusion. And deep inside, we're all the same. We're all the same! Halfway into the song, the tape started fritzing, cutting out like a scratch on a CD. Only, this was a cassette. And if a tape was going haywire, then it meant a lot worse than just a smudge or a scratch. Dean frantically pressed the buttons for a moment, hoping it was a fluke and the song would kick back in. But when that did nothing but cause a few telling squeals, he cursed and hit eject.
Shit! Don't tell me you ate the tape, baby. I love this one!
He muttered. Eyes on the road, Dean, Sam scolded, pulling out the tape for Dean and reeling in the string after string of ruined ribbon.
Son of a bitch!
Dean growled.
Last time she ate a tape was when we were in grade school, for Christ's sake. It's because you had to mess with it while I was gone and put in that damn adapter thing for your iPod.
Dean. Sam rolled his eyes, always playing along whenever they talked about Dean's time in hell as simply being gone. The car is 40 years old. It needs a new stereo. The adapter didn't do a thing. Just turn on the radio for a change. In a frustrated huff passed Dean's lips.
Huh. Your bumfuck nowhere was still going to find loads of selection.
He spat, watching spitefully as Sam tossed the destroyed tape into the back.
Forget it. There's a turn for Paleville.
He noted, and got ready to take the exit. Wait, Dean. Sam brought a hand up to the dashboard. There's a detour. And in fact, there were several signs steering them away from the exit and from Paleville.
Great! Damn road construction.
Dean muttered, following the detour to the neighboring town.
Guess we're staying in Silent Hill tonight instead.
Half a mile past the dimly lit sign. Welcome to Silent Hill. There was a figure in the middle of the road. Sam called out. Dean swerved, and the world slumped into darkness that layer only lightened as bright as ash. Oh, my dear brothers, welcome to a whole new world. Sam awoke, plastered against his door, held in place by his seatbelt, feeling like his head was about to pan open. The last car accident he had been in played through his mind, and he grimaced. At least swerving off the road was better than being jackknifed by a demon-driven semi.
Dean!
Sam croaked, pushing away from where his face had been pressed to the window, his mouth bitter with the taste of copper. Dean, are you all right? There was a groan in reply. was at least meant that Dean was alive and coming around to consciousness. Sam blinked a few times before turning to his brother, who still had his hands gripping the steering wheel and looking as though he had slammed forward into it. A slightly wrecked appearance of Dean's nose was any indication. At least it didn't look broken. What happened? Sam moved slowly to undo his seatbelt so he could better check on Dean. Dean let out another groan, peeling his fingers from the steering wheel and falling back heavily in his seat.
Ugh, don't know, he said. Someone on the road, I thought. Tried to avoid it. Next thing I know, goddamn ringing in my ear, and my baby's lying across the road.
He pressed the butt of his palm to his temple, no doubt having the same splitting headache as Sam. They had to be careful in case of concussion, but staying on the road didn't sound so hot either. We should keep going. Try to get to a hotel, rest, and make sure we don't need a hospital. You sure you're okay, Dean? Sam asked, one hand resting over Dean's arm, while the other went for Dean's chest to pat him down and check for broken ribs. A dismissive wave of Dean's hand put an end to that, knocking Sam's offered help away.
I'm fine! Just banged up, Sammy. No serious injury. Let's get out of here.
Sam sighed, but obliged, folding himself back fully into his own seat and reaching to put on his seatbelt again. It wasn't like he was a stranger to his brother refusing help. I wonder how long we were out. Doesn't seem to be anyone else on the road. I don't see anyone who might have been our phantom either, Dan said, in regards to whoever made them swerve, staring out the window at what looked like fog. There hadn't been fog before.
Don't say phantom,
Dean said, starting up the engine.
In our line of work, that might be true.
It was a weak try for humor to make up for how Dean knew that brushing off a helping hand always bothered Sam a little. Sam might have smiled at that comment too, if it were not for the stale dead failure of the Impala's engine.
Shit!
Dean slammed a hand into the steering wheel when the car wouldn't start.
Must have thrown something out of whack in the accident. Probably just knocked something loose. Hang on,
he huffed, throwing his door open and stepping out into the night. Something about that fog made it too bright outside, and for a moment, Sam had a sinking feeling that it was already daybreak. A quick glance at his watch told him otherwise. They had only been out a handful of minutes. But Sam still was unsettled watching Dean disappear into a gray haze as he went to pop open the Impala's hood. A second later, Sam was unbuckling his seatbelt again and stepping out into the car to join his brother. The first thing Sam noticed was that this was no fog. Little gray flakes were falling all around them, filling the air with a rancid smell of sulfur and smoke. It was snowing ash. What the hell is this? Sam asked, catching a few flakes in his hand and crushing them with his fingers to reveal the black soot within.
It's everywhere. God, I can barely breathe out here. Tell me something I don't know,
Dean mumbled from beneath the hood.
Must be a fire somewhere. Give me a hand here, Sammy.
It was so rare on occasion that Dean actually asked for help when looking at an engine that Sam instinctively obeyed, happy for the slight shield the hood made from falling ash. It would have to be one hell of a fire to create this kind of fallout, Sam said, placing his hand where Dean indicated, though he wasn't exactly sure what Dean was having him do. I mean, the whole town would have to be burning. I can't even see 2 feet in front of me.
Maybe it's a coal fire.
Dean fiddled around, tightening and loosening things, looking all around agitated that nothing was what he wanted to be.
You know how that shit burns. Bad enough coal fire could last forever.
You don't think, Sam trailed, sober suddenly.
Seal already broke?
Dean glanced up, one eyebrow raised in question. Let's hope not.
Damn it,
Dean cursed, kicking the bumper as he stepped back from the car.
There's nothing, not a damn thing wrong with her! What gives?
He cursed again, barely waiting for Sam to remove his arm, before slamming the hood shut and stalking back to his door. Rather than go back to his own door, Sam followed Dean, listening to the pathetic rumbles and whirs that never quite got up to a roar. The engine still wouldn't start. Maybe it's something you missed, Sam shrugged. Dean cast Sam a hard glare.
I don't mess shit about my baby. I know her inside out. Nothing is wrong with her. There's no reason she shouldn't start.
Dean tried again. Again. After about 5 more failures, Sam was getting pretty damn agitated too. Look, Dean, There's no one even around. Let's just try walking and see if we can find something. We passed the town sign. It can't be far. We'll just tow the car to town for now until we can figure out what is out in the daylight. Why do I call Bobby? He knows all these nowhere towns. Maybe he knows the number for a tow place or a mechanic around here.
I'm not letting some screwball mechanic lay his hands on my car!
Dean grumbled, continuing his fruitless efforts to start the engine. Sam just rolled his eyes and took out his cell. He dialed Bobby's number and waited. It wasn't all that late. If Bobby could look up a number for them, a tow place would have to be open still. Hey, Bobby? Sam began, when the other line picked up. The phone cracked back out with a hard static, the faintness of a voice barely coming through. Bobby? Sam said a little louder. It's Sam. Can you hear me? More static. Though Sam was certain he could almost pick up Bobby's voice on the other end. Look, Bobby, if you can hear me, just try to get me or Dean back. We're stuck outside of town, Silent Hill. The car won't start, and we can't see a thing in front of our faces. If you know, the static was getting so loud and garbled that Sam could barely keep his ear to his phone. He gave up and flipped his cell shut again. Damn it!
Bad reception?
Dean looked up at him seriously.
Well, don't this get better and better? Fuck!
He slammed his hand into the steering wheel again, harder this time, so that it made even Sam cringe.
Don't like the idea of just leaving the car out here in the middle of the road while we take a fucking walk!
Just as frustrated, but trying to keep his calm, Sam ran a hand back to his longer locks and sighed. Well, we don't have much of a choice, Dean. Faster we get moving, faster we can get back to the car and get her somewhere safe, okay? Let's just go. Dean remained in the driver's seat for another minute, no doubt thinking of ways to counteract Sam's logic, but coming up with none. Finally, he pulled the keys out of the car, slamming the door shut and locking her up good and tight.
Swear to God, someone steals this car.
Come on, Dean. Sam grabbed his brother's arm and tugged him toward the trunk, so they grabbed a few extra weapons before heading out, just in case. Once they were loaded up, Sam tugged on Dean again, leading them down the road, no matter how reluctant Dean might have been to leave the Impala behind. Seriously, Dean, Sam said, how bad could a little exercise be? This whole seal in the middle of nowhere crap really sucked. Dean had a half a mind to scream for Cass until his throat bobbed, but figured it wouldn't do any good when the angel had already promised to come to them as soon as it was heavenly possible. It just really hit the big one right now, and it was only Dean and Sam in an apparently empty wasteland of gray. Do we have any idea where we are? Sam asked, clearly antsy, judging by the shuffling way of walking, continuing along the seemingly abandoned road toward a town they weren't even sure was actually existed for all the ash that was falling around them. Do you have any idea where we are? Sam asked, clearly antsy by judging his shuffling way of walking, continuing along the seemingly abandoned road toward a town they weren't even sure actually existed. Sorry, did I just repeat myself? I don't remember doing that. It's probably nothing. Fix came to me.
The largest town street in the Midwest?
Dean kicked out a rock in the road. Are we even in the Midwest?
Hell if I know. I was just following Cass's directions. We passed Nebraska at some point, didn't we?
Sam just sighed. Doesn't your phone have a GPS? Dean could swear they had already had this conversation.
No signal, remember? No signal means no GPS. And I doubt it would help us anyway. When this place is even on the map, it'd probably show up as a big gray blob. Kinda like our current surroundings, he grumbled. Gotta be getting somewhere to town soon.
Dean, look! Sam shouted excitedly, pointing ahead at what finally looked like civilization looming out of the ash. A building.
Hallelujah!
Dean pulled his hands from his pockets, making a quick inventory of the weapons on his person. He and Sam were pretty well equipped now. There shouldn't be any problems. But they didn't know if the seal had already been broken or not. And if it had, then this place might be swarming with who knows what. This might also explain the ash in the air. But Dean was still hoping it was just a coal fire, and at that time they had to stop whatever Lilith's plans were for this place. Just a little ways further, the building came into clearer view. There weren't any cars around, but the place might have had a landline, so they could get a tow for the Impala and get this nightmare over with. Dean squinted at the building as they walked up to the door. It looked in a good enough shape and all, but it gave Dean the willies just standing in front of it, and Dean Winchester did not get spooked easily. Silent Hill Historical Society. Sam read the sign by the door. Damn, close at 8. We'll have to keep going.
Hang on now. Maybe someone's still home.
Dean tried the door hopefully, or maybe apprehensively, since he was still weirded out in general. The door was locked. Dean really hated the idea of having to keep walking along the endless road through snowfalls of ash. He pondered out the door just a couple more times before finally giving up. It was obvious no one was inside.
Damn. Fine. Let's keep on then.
He turned back to the road. I'm sure the rest of the town's right ahead, Dean, Sam offered, following along beside him. Sam looked out, grayed out from all the soot covering his clothes and skin. Dean knew he looked the same. They needed to get inside soon, or the ass was going to start seriously messing with them. It couldn't be good for their lungs. Though, for some reason, Dean had already gotten used to the smell. It didn't really feel like his breathing was labored. The sudden sound of static coming from Dean's closed and pocketed cell phone made him jump. In that same moment, barely visible at Dean's periphery, a shadow caught his attention and around the side of the Historical Society. Dean stopped, peering into the gray to see if something was actually there. He couldn't see anything other than falling ash, but there had definitely been a shadow a moment ago. Dean? Sam walked back to him after realizing Dean had stopped.
Check for EMF, Sammy,
Dean said, not taking his eyes off the spot he had seen movement.
I've got a bad feeling about this place.
Sam gave a false laugh, immediately complying and pulling off the EMF meter from his jacket. Gee, can't imagine why that might be, he snarked. Dean's mood was not lightened. He didn't feel any better about the situation when Sam flipped on the device and almost started sparking, lights going haywire, until Sam finally dropped it when it shorted out and several visible shocks going off in his hand.
Fuck!
Sam took out his fingers, stirring, probably from that. I just peed on the electric fence feeling that was no doubt troubling to his veins. What the hell? It's busted. Dean swallowed.
Or overloaded,
he said gravely. He and Sam shared a knowing look.
Okay.
Dean grabbed Sam's arm and started pulling him back down the road in the direction they came from.
We need to get out of here. Now!
But Dean! Sam protested, even as he was being dragged along.
The car won't start. What are we supposed to do?
Walk all the way back and then keep going until we hit another town?
Paleville's not far. Detour won't stop walkers.
We're almost to town.
It might be fully infested with smokes and other nasty things. You think of that? Dean whirled on his brother. If that seal's already broken, there could be hell on earth central over there. You want to try knocking on doors to see if nice demons want to play?
Sam scowled down. Just saying, Dean. We're not exactly helpless. We have weapons. It might be faster to see what's up there. Or maybe we'll find a working phone. Or a tow place. Or maybe something that's not even wrong and...
The EMF meter doesn't explode in your hands, Sam!
He tossed his hands up in the air.
We're going back to the car. I'll try a couple more times to get her going. And if she still won't start, then we walk to Paleville. At the very least, maybe we can get out of this ash cloud, okay?
The petulant look on Sam's face said he wanted to argue some more. But to Dean's extreme relief and surprise, Sam just gave a terse nod before shoving his hands in his pockets and heading on down the road again. It was about time Sam had actually listened to him. They walked in relatively silence back to the car. Silences like that used to be comfortable, but these days it was just awkward. Dean hated that. When he reached the Impala, she still wouldn't start. Just whirred and wheezed like a sick dog. Until Dean was so angry he was afraid he might take it out on his baby. That just wasn't acceptable. They locked the Impala up again and headed away from Silent Hill to Paleville. It was right about that time they were nearing the Welcome to Silent Hill sign that Dean started feeling nauseous. He couldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it. But something was definitely not right about what lay ahead of them.
Sammy.
They came across a sudden stop that just passed the sign. There was no more road. Nowhere to go. The pavement fell away, ending in a rocky cliff that dropped off into nothing. as if they had reached the end of the world.
I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or anything here, Sam, but I think we are royally screwed.
Sam took a shotgun from the trunk, eyes carefully watching the gray haze around them. Oh, this is part 4. As both he and Dean loaded up with extra weapons. Dean tried once again to get the car to start once they had more equipment. Not like it mattered. All it would mean was that they could drive into Silent Hill, but not out. The edge of the town limits fell way to nothing, trapping them indefinitely. It has to be a spell. A curse. Something. Sam mumbled to himself, guarding Dean with his back to Dean's open door, while the Impala engine failed again and again to do anything rather than rev pitifully. Even if this is because the seal's broken, there has to be a way out.
We better pray there is!
Dean spat through his clenched teeth, giving up and pushing on Dan's back to get him to move out of the way. Dean got out of the car and slammed his door, not bothering to lock the car this time.
Whatever's going on, we gotta move forward. We can't hang around like sitting ducks hoping Cass will show up.
Maybe we try calling out for him again. Sam shifted foot for foot. He never quite felt so defeated and without options, being trapped like this. Not since Dean had been shredded by hellhounds, and all Sam could do was bury the body. Dean sighed, rearing his own shotgun. Other weapons conveniently tucked about his person, just like Sam.
Doesn't always work that way, Sammy. For all we know, maybe he can't hear me here.
But he was going to meet us here anyway, Sam countered. He has to show up eventually.
Meanwhile, sitting around here means that just whatever beasties are out there have a better chance of ambushing us. I say we get to town, see what there is to find, and maybe there's a place we can hold up. Maybe there's a phone. Maybe there's a damn big bat to kill. Even. They'll turn this whole mess around. Let's just get going.
Dean started off immediately down the road. Sam was feeling the worst kind of deja vu. He didn't bother saying any kind of I told you so remarks about them heading back to town. It was good they had gone back to the car. Good that they knew something bad was up. Just didn't feel all that good right now. Maybe the seal's part of a Bermuda Triangle sort of thing, Sam said. A wormhole or...
Don't get started with your mystery spot shit again.
Dean shot back. Sam scowled. I'm just trying to think of a way through this, Dean. There has to be an explanation. Tension was high, as usual, and being trapped like this, anxious and cut off, just made it worse. To top it all off, they were hungry. Dean was never in a good mood when he was hungry. But, to Sam's surprise, Dean didn't snap back a response. Instead, he looked over, patient, like he was honestly trying, and said,
I like the curse spot idea. Could be that. Might be why there's a seal here. Because it's easier to hide. We find the heart of this place, sanctify it, maybe we can undo the whole damn thing. Hopefully, Cass will show up along the way and help us out.
Sam knew what Dean was doing. He was trying to ease his little brother, make the big bad boogeyman seem less daunting. Sometimes, Sam really didn't mind that Dean looked down like he was still a little boy. Yeah, we just gotta keep our eyes open. Sam offered a small smile. Dean returned it, and the silence was a lot less comfortable as they made their way back down the road, shotguns at the ready in case any shadows leapt out of the ash. Dean had told Sam that he thought he had seen movements before the EMF meter exploded. There was simply something going on out there, even if they couldn't see it now. They reached the Historical Society again, past the remains of their busted device. They kept on going. There were no shadows moving this time, but the brothers were ready, eyes trained like veteran soldiers to catch even the barest of movement. Sam felt better having Dean beside him. He couldn't imagine being in this place alone. The ash wasn't letting up at all.
I think we're coming up on something else,
Dean said quietly now, since they were wary of luring any baddies. The Historical Society was well behind them now. But there was definitely a building up ahead. Peach Ballorama. Sam read the sign as the building came into view, letting every bit of ironic disgust show through his tone. Oh, this place is a regular Green Acres. Dean huffed.
I bet they have town picnics and a carnival for 4th of July, too.
Dean played along.
Check the door. Smart to get the best lay of the land we can.
Dean nodded. They reached the building, but, just like the Historical Society, The bowling alley's door was locked. Sam knocked a few times, wondering if maybe there might be townspeople around, even if there was a demonic presence. But no sounds of movement echoed back to them from inside. There was nothing to do but continue on. There's another building across the street. Sam nodded ahead, squinting through the dingy gray cloud that covered the entire town. They walked a few steps past the bowling alley to an intersection, the first time they had come upon another street. Sam glanced up at the signs. They had been walking along Nathan Avenue. Rather lackluster for a demonic hotspot, actually. The turn at the intersection led right, down Carroll Street. There didn't seem to be anything special about their surroundings at all. Well, let's keep going, Sam offered.
Sam?
Dean's voice was stiff, a strong grip reaching out to clutch Sam's jacket and hold him in place. Sam turned back to his brother, seeing that Dean's eyes were wide and focused downward. Following Dean's line of sight, Sam stared at the pavement beneath them, any comments choked off in his dry throat. Blood. There was blood all over the street in large, thick streaks, as if a body had been torn off and dragged off into the ash.
Jesus!
Dean took a breath that heaved in his chest. The other building, Sam suggested. If it's locked, I say we break in and take the time to think this through. We don't even know what we're dealing with.
Yeah. Ugh.
Dean swallowed visibly, looking up at Sam with a weak try for a smirk.
Wouldn't want to get eaten right as this night hunt's starting, yeah?
Sam allowed what small amount of humor he had left to bleed his expression. At least you go for you first. With the way you eat, there's bound to be extra fat, he teased.
What?
Dean, honestly offended.
You're twice my size! He shot back. They'll eat me first if they were saving you for the main course, Jumbo. Fet my ass, he grumbled. Nothing but lean, sexy muscle.
Sam suppressed a laugh. Sure, Dean. Whatever you say.
Bitch.
Dean muttered under his breath. At last, something felt normal. Safe. Sam was all set to throw back his customary response, too, as they made their way slowly across the street to reach the next building. It was proved to be a Texan gas station, when movement right in front of the doors brought Sam to a sudden stop.
Dean?
I see it, Dean whispered back. Weapons raised, they approached more cautiously, trying to make out what looked like a person shuffling toward them. It was hard to see through the haze of falling ash. But whatever that thing was definitely more than a shadow. A sudden crackling of static from Dean's pocket almost had Sam jumping out of his skin. Dean stuttered in his steps too, taking a moment to pause, reach into his pocket, and pull out his cell phone. Sam had left his in the car.
It did the last time I saw something,
Dean hissed, as if just remembering. They both stared ahead, again at the approaching figure. Definitely approaching, not just hovering by the gas station doors. In extreme cases, cell phones and other electronics could react like EMF detectors if the signal was strong enough. Considering the actual EMF meter blew itself to bits, it was probably safe to say that the signals in this place were strong. Right now, they were coming for the creature in front of them.
Hey, ugly! Dean called. Don't think we won't shoot.
Sam readied his weapon, but practically choked on his tongue when he got a real good look at the thing coming at them with slow, halting steps. Dean? Sam was starting to feel nauseous. I don't think he can hear you.
Why not?
Swallowing, Sam tried to keep his pulse steady. It doesn't have ears. Ugly was an understatement. The thing in front of them wasn't really a person. It had a human shape, but it was naked, covered in sickly brown skin, its bald head and faceless. Its legs were mostly normal, but its arms were wrapped around its body like a straitjacket made out of his own skin. Sam had never seen anything like it. Dean fired. Out of nowhere, just fired, catching the thing somewhere near its midsection and toppling it to the ground.
Dean!
Sam shouted, staring at his brother incredulously.
What?
Dean looked back on him.
I'm pretty positive this is a shoot first, ask questions later kind of moment, Sam.
That thing didn't even have a freaking face! While Sam, for the most part, agreed with Dean's reasoning for the shooting, he still had to act a little affronted at the lack of warning. Did Dean even know what they were dealing with? Is it dead? Sam asked rather than further the argument. He didn't want to go and check. It wasn't in the Winchester's nature to be squeamish around supernatural creatures. But this was new territory.
What's this?
Dean began as he turned to look back at the thing, but he cut off, and his eyes widened in horror. Sam didn't want to look. He really didn't like to look, but he had to. When he did, there was nothing. No sign of the creature had existed, save for a smear of dark blood.
Dean? Where the hell did it go?
Dean whirled around, shotgun ready to fire again. They moved so they were back to back, checking their surroundings carefully. The only problem with this usually survival tactic was they couldn't see more than a few feet in front of their faces, thanks to the damn ash. They waited, the air still too silent, too still. Then something like skittering, an awful man-eating spider kind of skittering, echoed the pavement with rapid motion to their left. The brothers both turned to face the telling noise. They waited again. After a moment, the skittering returned, but this time from behind them. Shit!
There!
Dean called, whopping around to his right. Sam fired just as Dean did, both of their shots hitting nothing but concrete as the creature rushed them. The same creature Dean had already shot, crawling on his stomach and impossibly fast as if sprinting on two legs. Dean was the closest, so the creature gunned straight for him, too quickly for Dean to ready another shot. Thankfully, this was not true for Sam. Cocking his shotgun, Sam immediately reared around and fired. This time, he hit the creature square in the head, but not before his chest opened like a black pussing sore and sprayed Dean with a black liquid that sizzled as soon as it touched his jacket. Fuck! Dean yanked the jacket off, still holding his shotgun in his hand. At least the jacket wasn't his leather one, because whatever that black stuff was started eating through the fabric like acid. It smoked and crackled from the ground where Dean dropped it. Fucking freak! Dean kicked at the creature's head, which was still goddamn twitching. After several clicks, it finally went still. But Dean was breathing heavily, obviously shaken. You okay? Sam asked, looking at Dean in concern. Dean had gotten his jacket off before any of that stuff could sink in further into his other clothing or skin, but it still had been a close call. Patting himself down, as he expected more of that acidic crap to suddenly start burning him, Dean shook himself with a disgusting grunt.
Ugh, this sucks! This fucking sucks! Where are we? In the evil land of Oz?
Dean, Sam sighed.
I'm fine, Dean affirmed. Just shit! What was that thing? What the hell's going on?
I don't know, Sam said, but maybe we should. A sudden screech of static from Dean's cell phone cut off the end of Sam's sentence. It was picking EMF again. A sudden cry like a falcon or eagle pierced the sky, accompanied by the sound of heavy flapping. Too heavy to be actually from any bird. Sam looked up. Why do I have this feeling that isn't Castiel arriving? Insistent hands grabbed Sam by the scruff of his jacket and pulled, Dean forcibly leading them into the gas station. That flapping wasn't solitary. There was more than one of whatever headed their way.
Move!
Dean pushed Sam towards the doors. They were locked, like all the other buildings in town had been, but it wouldn't take much for Sam to break in. While Sam worked on the lock, Dean watched his back, the sound of flapping growing ever louder. There! Sam finally gasped as the door swung open. It wouldn't have done them any good just to break through the glass after all.
Inside!
Dean pushed at Sam again, leaving no room for personal space, or second-guessing as he crowded Sam against both of them were safely inside. Or at least, safe for now. With the sound of flapping dulled by the barrier gas station doors, Sam and Dean were both relieved that neither of them heard the rustling of movement coming from the back of the store. Dean tried to take stock of the situation. There were creatures in town that, like movie zombies, required a direct shot into the head to actually stay down. And even that wasn't a guarantee that you wouldn't get burned. Literally. With acid. There was also something flying around in the gray haze of the sky that reminded Dean a little too much of Alfred Hitchcock. They were trapped. Not just currently. Inside the gas station where they had ducked to avoid getting their eyes pricked out. Whatever may have happened. But trapped even more by the drop-off that fell away to a bottomless pit that was near the edge of the down's limits. This definitely was not Dean's day.
Okay.
He scrubbed a hand down his face, his back pressed against the wall on one side of the door, while Sam was flattened on the other side, both of them peering through the glass to see if anything was visible outside.
We just need to figure this out. Come on. Come up with a game plan.
We should wait for Castiel, Sam suggested.
For how long? Eventually, something's going to get in here if we don't keep moving. This isn't a haunting. It isn't a run-of-the-mill demon infestation, and no ordinary cursed spot I've ever seen manifest creatures like that. We need to find this area of this place now!
As Sam was giving in and nodding to his agreement, the sudden clatter of items falling from one of the shop shelves alerted Sam and Dean they were not safely as hidden as they thought. The brothers turned to stare further into the gas station. What was a dark, practically pitch black with the lights off. Dean brought his finger to his mouth to indicate silence. And Sam nodded, guns ready, to begin moving for the first aisle. The noises definitely came from there, but they couldn't see anything clearly. Dean's instincts told him to keep on. He could almost make out the dull outline of movement as his eyes adjusted. Then, he remembered his cell phone.
Wait!
Dean hissed at Sam, holding out an arm to keep Sam from firing when a figure came rushing toward them out of the dark.
Yeah!
Yelled the man that ran at them from out of the aisle. Something like a club clutched in his hand that pulled back and got ready to swing. Then he stopped, feet actually skidding to a halt when he saw Sam and Dean clearly. His eyes widened, his hands shaking as he held on to what Dean now realized was a rusty pipe. You're not one of them? The man's voice dropped to a frightened whisper. Dean had already lowered his gun and pushed down the barrel to get Sam to do the same. Sam shot Dean a look, mostly to say, "How did you know?"
No static.
Dean shrugged, gesturing down to the pocket of his cell phone. He turned to the man.
Don't worry, pal. You're safe. We left the beasties outside. I promise. Unless you got some in here with you.
The man dropped his arms in relief. The pipe long gone enough that the end of it hit the floor, even as he held onto it. Oh, thank God. No, none of those things are in here. I checked the whole place. I didn't find anything. I locked the door behind me. I found this pipe and just hid. Do you know what's going on? He stepped closer to them. Well, at least he knew this place was secure. Dean eyed the man, who looked a little dirty from the fast outside, but not injured. He was about Dean's age, with dirty blonde hair that fell down around his eyes. Eyes that currently had brown pupils, only silver and blue were visible. The guy was in good shape, like them, but definitely not another hunter, or anyone with combat experience. He was wearing a freaking polo shirt. Sam answered the man's questions first, plastering on his "you can trust me" smile that worked so well with anyone, when Dean's only worked on women, and sometimes kids. Sorry, we just got into town. Our car stalled outside the limits, and we were walking through, Sam said, easing right into a truthful lie. Doesn't look like we'll be able to leave easily, so we were hoping to find a phone, or maybe a town center where someone might know what's going on. Yeah, that was definitely better than saying, we're looking for a big-ass motherfucker responsible for the mess so we can kill it.
You around from here?
Dean added, hoping the guy knew a little more than they did, since they had already been here when they arrived. Used to be, the guy said. I'm Aaron Sanders. Grew up here with my sister when we were kids. I was coming to visit her. I can't even remember how I got here, though. I just woke up and everything was a mess, and those monsters. He shuddered. You must have hit your head. Sam gestured to the cut on the man's temple. That's probably why your memory's fogging. Dean sure knew how that felt.
Don't worry, man. We'll figure this out.
He smiled encouragingly.
I'm Dean. This is my brother Sam. Good thing right now we're together. But if we keep moving through all this, you better have something a little more lethal than a pipe.
Dean would have just handed the guy one of his extra guns, but he wasn't an idiot. They didn't actually know this guy, but it would be better if I'm Aaron Sanders was armed, since Dean didn't want to have to worry about wanting his and Sam's back, and the back of some bubbly idiot who could only get them killed. I have a pistol, Aaron offered, reaching into the back of his pants and producing an old Glock 17 that definitely didn't know how to use, judging by the way he held it. Used up all the bullets when I saw some of those things outside. I'm not the best shot. He had the curiosity to look embarrassed that had already wasted his ammo, but then That might also be because Sam and Dean had shotguns and other weapons tucked around their persons, not all that covertly. You guys cops or something? Aaron eyed their whimpery. This was one time where Dean didn't actually care why they were so heavily armed, but he still smirked to himself when Sam offhandedly said, "We're hunters." Oh, Aaron nodded. That should have been obvious. What's in season? Oh, how Dean loves civilians.
Why don't we see if we can find some bullets for that thing?
Dean gestured to the Glock, and then turned to head back to the counter up at the front.
Small towns like this, but they sell bullets behind the counter with or without a federal license.
There used to be a time when every mom and place sold a little ammo. Sam and Aaron followed closely behind Dean, and lo and behold, he found some cartridges behind the counter that should work for the Glock. He tossed it to Aaron, who clumsily caught them, even with the gum and pipe still in either hand.
Where's your sister supposed to be? Maybe we can head there.
Ah, and so thus did the young man go down to the sewer, and find an ancient woman, who asked him if he had the gold or silver pipe. When refused, she gave him both the ancient gold and silver pipe of awesome. No, I never forgot. No, I never understand that part of Silent Hill 3. Never! That's a good idea, Sam nodded. Maybe we could find some other people. Figure out what's really going on. Wait, Aaron hastily said, trying to reload the gun. You want to go back out there? Shouldn't we wait for help or barricade ourselves in or something? What was with most people and the wait and see approach, Dean wondered. That's what got idiots killed in horror movies.
We're sitting ducks with a glass door. I tell you to lie low and wait here, but I don't like your chances a little, pal. No offense. Plus, you might be able to help us navigate the town if you're from here. Not much we could do walking blindly through the ass.
You don't know what's causing that, do you? Aaron shook his head. Dean heard Sam clear his throat, with a quick bullshit cut of Crystal under his breath. Aaron didn't even flinch, just stared at Sam and Dean like he wasn't so sure he trusted these strangers. At least the guy wasn't a complete idiot. Or a demon. Dean started handing shotgun shells over his shoulder to Sam, as he could continue cleaning out the ammo from behind a gas counter. At least they would be well stocked when they braved the outside world again. Dean was actually warming to the lead pipe idea. It had more range than a knife, and there was always a chance their guns could jam, or that they would eventually run out of bullets, no matter how well stocked they were. He saw a baseball bat behind the counter and snatched it up, ignoring Sam's raised eyebrow.
It's our new weapon, Sam. I'm calling her home run. We're going to trust her. We're going to trust this bat like it was family, Sam. This bat's going to be our ticket out of here.
Sure, Dean.
So, where's your sister at?
Dean asked Aaron again, partly praying that she was above 18. Simply having company seemed to relaxing Aaron, even if he wasn't quite ready to consider Sam and Dean his new best friends. Blue Creek Apartments. That's where she lives. It's a couple of blocks down. Straight shot. The main doors won't be locked. Not in this town. But that might mean... Those things, he cringed, no doubt imagining all the awful ways his sister might have been mutilated. And why have I been hearing letter from days past in my head? Oh well, it could be worse. I could be hearing one soul to the call. One more soul to the call! Oh, frack! Dean watched with a certain amount of fondness as Sam's patented puppy eyes came out in full force on Aaron's behalf. We'll find her, he said, hand moving to squeeze Aaron's shoulder supportively. That was Sammy, always making promises he couldn't keep. That thought turned Dean's expression a little sour.
Okay.
He pushed his way between Sam and Aaron, not meaning to be quite so forceful, he swears. As he headed into the aisles with a flashlight, he snagged to check for other supplies they might want to bring along.
Let's stock up, just in case. If we do end up holed up somewhere, starving to death is not the way I plan to go out.
Sam noticed anything about Dean's malleable temperament. He didn't comment. Just helping Dean load up a bag of food, water, matches, and a few other odds and ends it never hurt to have along. Meanwhile, Dean also marked sheath out some vinyl rope for the bat, so his hands could remain free until he needed it. Which was a totally awesome idea, no matter how much Sam snickered. Once they were ready, The three of themselves tucked together tight by the door, Aaron in the middle, prepared to head back out into the ash. Sam was used to being scared. It came with the territory. Only amateurs thought you could live the life of a hunter and not be terrified of the things you faced. Truth was that if Sam wasn't able to accept his fear, then he would never be able to do this job. Of course, his current level of scared was a little higher than usual. Ash was still falling constantly around him like gray snow, covering the whole town in a cloud of rancid smoke that made it impossible to see anything. Slowly, cautiously, Sam, Dean, and their newly acquired tour guide, Aaron, worked their way down the street toward the Blue Creek apartments. So far, the way had been silent and free of acid-spitting monsters. There was a whole lot of nothing around them. Or at least, the next building was far enough away that he couldn't see anything but the thickness of the ash. They walked with Aaron between them, the poor guy holding on to his reloaded Glock like it was a lifeline, one he didn't really know how to use, while Sam and Dean both had shotguns they were pros with. Of course, they didn't want to use up all their ammo. But something just felt safer about carrying heavy artillery. Furthermore, I'm going to make predictions right now. The ash represents the fire that consumed both their mother and Jessica, and I think the Jacket Straight Demon represents some of the things that Sam and Dean had to hold back to themselves because the guy doesn't have ears. And I have no idea who's Silent Hill this is supposed to be. I'm guessing this is supposed to be Dean, or heck, this could be both of the brothers. I'm just glad so far right now we're not going to see any really abusive parents. God, I love Silent Ponyville too. There was a whole lot of nothing around them, or at least, the next building was far enough away that he couldn't see anything but the thickness of the ash. They walked with Aaron between them, the poor guy holding on his reloaded clock like it was a lifeline. Didn't really know how to use. While Sam and Dean both had their shotguns they were pros with. Of course, he didn't really want to use up all their ammo, but something just felt safer about carrying heavy artillery.
How much farther?
Dean hissed, keeping his voice low. It's just past Jack's Inn, in the park. Shouldn't be far, Aaron whispered back. But we don't know what we're going to find. What if Sammy's already dead? He tugged off. The hair on the back of Sam's neck stood on end as he met gazes with Dean around Aaron's shuddering form.
Sammy?
Dean whispered. His eyes locked on Sam as he called it. Yeah, my sister. It's Samantha, but I always call her Sammy. She hated it. Aaron chuckled in a quiet rust, the way people always laughed when they were too scared to laugh for real. That's it! Calling it! This is the Silent Hill! We got Samantha! This is going to be... the symbolism is going to be shooting through the roof!
Probably just a younger sibling thing.
Dean grinned at Sam.
You know, they gotta act all tough with their "don't treat me like a kid" bullshit. But deep down, I bet she loved the nickname more than she ever admitted.
Right, Sam huffed. Aaron seemed to be in his own world.
Yeah,
he said, staring at the ground as he walked. I hope she's okay.
Whoa, Dean broke in suddenly louder. See up there? Looks like a truck. Oh, hell yes, a massive civilization!
That's Jack's Inn. Aaron pointed to the looming darkness that was starting to take shape in a building just across the street from where the truck was parked. At least they knew for sure that other people had to be in the town.
We should try for the truck before we keep on,
Dean suggested, picking up speed. What for? Sam asked. We can't go anywhere.
Depends,
Dean stepped back.
You like wandering around the town with no protection?
Wait, why can't we go anywhere? Aaron asked. Couldn't we just drive the truck back out of town and get help?
Oops.
Sam and Dean didn't want Aaron to freaking out on them any more than he already was. It was probably best that they didn't tell him that the edges of town dropped off into a great Grand Canyon wasteland of nothing. Just trust us, man. Sam patted Aaron's back. It's going to take a little more than a vehicle to get out of this town. But let's try to get the truck anyway. Could be useful. He passed an apologetic look at Dean. He didn't mean to keep throwing out Dean's ideas and being testy. It was just such a frustrating situation. The truck was close now, a beacon through the haze. They were only a few yards away when Dean's phone started cracking. Three of them instantly froze. They had come to the conclusion that their phone was their warning beacon. It was not a hard conclusion to make after what they had gone through so far. Dean and Sam had explained that much to Aaron, trying to avoid too much talk of EMF and ghosts and monsters. But the guy had been pretty willing to believe them anyway, considering they were actually monsters in the scenario. If Dean's phone was going all static on them now, then that meant something was coming for them. Not more. God, please. I can't take any more of these things, Aaron mumbled, shuffling his feet and looking ready to bolt.
Just hold it together,
Dean spat sharply.
There are three of us, and these things are slow. We have weapons. Remember, we can do this.
I would just like to also take this moment in this fic to say how proud I am of this fanfic that, we are 6 chapters into the Silent Hill story, and no sign of Pyramid Head to be found for miles and miles. I've just doing myself, haven't I? The sound of flapping, rather than the sight of one of those slow-moving creatures, when Sam decided not to remind Dean that they were not slow once they hit the ground, had Sam's throat tightening. It sounded like a goddamn pterodactyl onto them. Looked like one, too, when Sam finally spotted diving right for his head. Sammy! Sam hit the pavement, flanking by Dean, who had plowed him over into the ground to save him. Sam groaned as he and Dean quickly tried to disentangle themselves and get their bearings again. They had lost their guns. A good thing, too, because they hadn't lost their guns. A good thing, too, because they had needed to use them. Now. No! No! They heard from Aaron, who was already scrambling backwards towards the truck, away from Sam and Dean. I can't do this! Aaron screamed, right before turning and bolting just like Sam had feared, disappearing into the ass just right around the truck. Aaron, no! Sam yelled after him. Given the situation, Aaron was probably already being devoured by the creatures of the mist. No, this is a Silent Hill and Supernatural crossover. The Supernatural and Legend of Legaia crossover is down the street. Along with the My Little Pony and Legend of Legaia crossover. Somebody, spike that up. Sammy! There! Dean called, alerting Sam back to the matter at hand. They were back on their feet. Dean's phone was screaming with static. The flapping seemed to be all around them now. Sam looked to where Dean was trying to pull his attention and fired at the shadowy shape above them. Another shot sounded, one from Dean. At the next moment, a leathery-looking bird, the size of a German shepherd, a bit too much like a pterodactyl actually, fell with a sick thud to the ground at Sam's feet. For a minute, Sam and Dean just stood there staring at the thing, both panting heavily. They didn't have to say out loud if they were ever ambushed by these things, or attacked by one or two at a time. There was a good chance they wouldn't live to talk about it.
What the hell are we dealing with here, Sam?
Dean stepped up closer to the dead thing, still twitching as Dean kicked it with his foot. Sam just shook his head. He'd never seen anything like these creatures before. It wasn't like he could calmly look things up with his usual local Wi-Fi. I don't know, but we should keep moving. We don't know how many of these things are out here. What about Aaron? Sam looked off in the direction Aaron had run.
Fuck him!
Dean gritted out, eyes wild and brow creased with tension. Sam had a sneaking suspicion that this whole mess was a little too close to hell for Dean's liking.
Normally, I say we at least look for the bastard, but we don't even know what we're dealing with out here. We'll just get ourselves killed if we don't figure this out. Then we won't be able to help anyone. Let's get to the truck, okay?
Dean wiped a hand down his face, more haggard than Sam was used to. It was the kind of logic that Winchesters didn't usually use. With them, it was more often about saving whoever they could. But this place made it difficult to be heroic. They needed to be smart. Aaron was the one who had run off, instead of sticking with the group. Following along behind Dean, and keeping a sharp eye on their surroundings, Sam took some solace in the silence of Dean's foe. It quieted as soon as the creature was dead. At least it had something to even out the odds a little, even if it was just a warning that bad things were on the way. Hey, Dean? Sam reached ahead and tugged on Dean's short. He could feel his brother was warm, despite the time of year and being without a jacket. Nothing about this place made sense. I think I see something under the truck, Sam whispered, squinting ahead, almost positive he could make out a shadow that lay down on the ground. Dean pumped his shotgun, ready for a new shell.
Shoot first to ask questions never?
Dean grinned crookedly over his shoulder at Sam. Sam couldn't help thinking again how happy he was that Dean was with him. Then a voice from behind him erased all thoughts Sam had been giving about any upper hand.
Dean,
Was all he heard, low and gruff and fiercely urgent. Sam tensed, seeing Dean was ahead of him with just as frozen. They give Beth 2 eggs and realized, however, that Dean's phone was silent as he whipped around and used it and pointed their shotgun squarely in the direction of the voice. The brothers immediately dropped their weapons when they saw who was with them, and it took all Sam's strength not to fall straight to the ground in relief.
Cass!
Dean gasped, like the weight of the world had just been lifted from his shoulders. At first, Sam thought he could relate to the sentiment, but although it was Castiel standing before him, wearing his usual trench coat, suit, and loosened tie, something was terribly wrong. The angel looked terrified, as much as they were. And tell you one thing, that was scary. Castiel was too late. He had foolishly sent Sam and Dean ahead when he had known so little about this particular seal himself. The truth had been kept him for the greater good, something Castiel was beginning to doubt more and more each time good didn't seem quite as righteous as he used to remember. This place, Silent Hill, was like no other on Earth. It had always been a seal, but its power had grown exponentially over the years, affecting all the people near it, sometimes even drawing in others from across the country to be lured to its power. Sam and Dean stood little chance of protecting the seal. The cats had to wonder if that even mattered anymore. The Winchesters could not possibly grasp how bad this really was. Castiel did not have the heart to tell them the truth. Of course, Dean was always so persistent.
What the hell, Cass? Just spill it!
Dean was practically growling in Castiel's face, shotgun lowered, but his grip on the handle was still tight.
You look as free as shit! Now, points for you for being able to look stone-faced and scared at the same time. But you better tell us what's going on right now! What's happening here? Where the hell have you been?
It always pained Castiel to lie to Dean, so he swore silently to himself that that very moment he could only speak the truth.
Forgive me, Dean. I did not know that I was sending you into. I would have come straight away, but breaking into the barrier was not easy. Silent Hill only lets in willingly those who can claim.
Those words alone had Sam and Dean looking pale and anxious. What is this place? Sam gasped, shifting nervously, looking around with fear plain on his face. It was a good thing he was still not soothed merely by Castiel's presence. Castiel could guarantee nothing.
Silent Hill is a cursed spot that's had its sins crowded out itself, creating a direct link to hell and to an old god, much like Samhain, whose resurrection would signal the breaking of the seal here.
Cass explained.
For now, the seal is intact, or the evil of this place would begin spilling out beyond Silent Hill's borders. We must stop the resurrection of this god. Lilith is no doubt already here, attempting to free it.
Well, great! Dean spat.
What do we do? You don't happen to know how the seal can be broken, or how we're supposed to prevent it by any chance?
The trust was gone from Dean's expression, his countenance back to barrenness and pessimism. For once, it was warranted.
Dean.
Castiel looked to his charge earnestly.
Silent Hill is forever in flux. The details surrounding each attempt to resurrect the dark god imprisoned here tied directly to the people who was lured to this town. I unwillingly made you and your brother part of the cycle. What that means.
Cass looked at Sam, who was still openly distraught. Then back to Dean, who looked angry.
What that means is that all the people you encounter here will have something in common with you. One unifying thread. If we encounter what that is, and follow the clues the town leads us, we should be led straight to Lilith. The town always offers chances, but they are limited. The seal cannot be broken until everyone currently here has been killed. Myself the only one exempt. If you die here, then all is lost.
Oh, how all is lost. Sam and Dean looked somewhere between relieved and horrified to hear all this. As long as they lived, the seal could be saved. There was still a chance to save the seal, but there was worse news to tell them.
I'm afraid I will be of little help to you.
Cass went on. I was able to break in, but my abilities will be greatly stunted here. I'm hardly no more than a man in this place. Castiel swallowed. He used Jimmy's drug to swallow, because it seemed like the appropriate reaction for a caged animal. Castiel's death was not necessary to break the seal, but it was still a possibility he could die. Sam and Dean must have understood that whenever Angel remained on his faces, because it left them then, leaving something like sympathy instead. So, we get to look after you for a change, huh? Sam started to smile.
Can you leave?
Dean asked abruptly. Ever wanted to think of others before himself. Castiel shook his head.
Not anymore. Not until the resurrection is prevented. If I could take you out of here.
Castiel trailed.
Forget it!
Dean dismissed.
We have a job to do, so let's do it. We gotta find clues. Find the other people, like Aaron.
Dean turned politely to Sam.
Shit!
Sam cursed. We need to find him. He could already be dead.
He said his sister's name was Sammy, remember?
He kept his full attention to his brother.
There's the first coincidence. But something tells me that the real connection here is going to be bigger. Let's check the truck first.
Dean pointed ahead.
Might still be good for cover, if I could get it running. Then we'll search for Aaron.
It was strange for Castiel, being so limited, so helpless, almost entirely cut off from the Angel hotline, as Dean called it. The only thing Castiel could hear from his brothers and sisters was a slight murmur, mangled words that seemed filled with fear for his sake. That didn't sit well with Castiel, with Jimmy's heart beating wildly in his human chest. Castiel had never felt so connected to his host before. Practically human here. It's so vulnerable. He could die here, condemning Jimmy to something far out and worse.
Yo! Snap out of it, man!
Dean literally snapped into Castiel's face, pulling him from his morbid musings. Castiel tried to focus on Dean, on how immediately sure and confident the brothers became when they had a goal, a task they could fulfill, no matter how impossible.
It'll be fine, Dean said. As long as you don't run off on your own like the Aaron guy did. Sammy and me, we can protect you, okay? Besides, you gotta have some Angel mojo left, don't you?
I might be able to banish the creatures we encounter if I touch them, Cass said, but that's all. Your weapons will probably be more effective. Hey, Castiel? Sam prompted softly, so easily sounding like a child that Castiel wanted to listen, rather than the arrogant, flippant man Sam was becoming that no longer believed in prayer. Castiel returned the look that Sam was giving him, with a regarding tilt of his head. I was wondering. Sam had difficulty in speaking. Did you come here for us, knowing you wouldn't be able to leave? That you pretty much be a sitting duck? Did you come to warn us, knowing what a big risk it was? There was a surprise in Sam's questions, even though the answers were already obvious. Of course, Cass had come to this awful place, despite the dangers. I could not let you face this danger alone, Cass said, filled with something that might have been a thrill, a sense of being a renegade without having actually disobeyed orders. Here, he was barely an angel at all. A strange feeling of loneliness and freedom enveloped him as he thought about that.
Let's get a move on then,
Dean smirked, no longer angry, but instead surprised, maybe even grateful to the angel. He smacked Castiel's arm good-naturedly, so he could often casually touch Sam.
Gotta get you and everyone in this place home.
The smile had begun to grow on Castiel's face, so instantly faltered. Silent Hill would never let them go home. We'll figure this out, Sam added, taking Castiel's arm and tugging on slightly. Come on, it's okay. The brothers began walking toward their truck in the distance, urging Castiel to come with them. Since Castiel could do nothing but follow wherever the Winchesters led him, he listened. And to answer your question, Miss Author, I liked it. I really, really liked it. Part 8. Dean could count on one hand how many times he had actually seen Cass scared. He wasn't so sure he could count the look on the angel's face now as scared, or just really worried and anxious. But then, that was all sort of the same thing, Dean supposed. And he really couldn't grudge Castiel a little fear when the angel was basically depowered in this damn town and practically human. That had to be sobering, and weird, and scary. Okay, Dean had to stop thinking about how scary all this was, because he was starting to freak himself out. They had Cass now, and even if he was merely a shinier version of a regular being, he still had knowledge and basic fighting skills. At least Dean hoped that Cass had fighting skills. Did he? Now that Dean thought about it, Cass did have a tendency to get his caught clean if someone wasn't watching his back. Still, 3 was better than 2. As they were nearing the truck that Dean was not so secretly hoping that they would not only run, but somehow be capable of taking them out of here, Dean focused on the shadowy figure on the ground that Sam had pointed out before. There was something definitely there, half tucked under the truck. Dean had their shotguns ready, Castiel safe behind him, when he finally got close enough to see that the figure was a pair of legs. Dean felt the bile rising in his throat before he realized that the legs were moving, and not at all detached from their body. "Hey!" Dean called down as he circled quickly to the opposite side, so he and Sam had the legs surrounded. "Who's down there?" "Fuck!" responded a sharp curse after an immediate clang of forehead against metal. "Damn it!" grumbled a voice a moment later. "Who the hell's up there?" Guns aimed, Sam and Dean stood steady as the man, definitely a man, rolled out from under the truck. He was smudged with dirt and oil, and even wearing a greased monkey jumpsuit. His name tag said Jonah, but if Dean hadn't known it was impossible, he could have sworn it was his father, or at least a close relative. "Jesus!" The guy raised his hands, as if being stuck up. It was probably what he felt like from his perspective, what with 2 shotguns pointed out.
"If you're here to take the truck, I've been working on her running for over an hour. Nothing. Don't have a cent on me, I swear."
Sam glanced over at Dean and rolled his eyes. He lowered his gun soon after, and plastered that painted puppy look, full with deep-seated apology. Sorry, Mr. Jonah." Sam read the guy's name tag. "We're just trying to be cautious. I don't suppose you've noticed Sam trailed. He always had trouble saying things like freaky-ass monsters. The unusual things that must have been going on in this town." Jonah just blinked for a moment. Then his hands came down, and he sat up with a frown.
"You mean those creatures that damn near took my head off?"
He snapped.
"Yeah, I think I noticed. Why do you think I was bothering with the truck? My own car died on me when I was coming in the other way. This was the first car I saw, and believe me, son," he pointed up at Stan, "I wanted to get out of here as soon as I can. Gotta admit, it's good to run into someone with more of a weapon than this damn pocket knife of mine."
He patted his pocket.
"Now, help me up."
And without so much as a worried glance at Dean for having his weapon aimed, Jonah thrust his arms up at both brothers and waved for a helping hand. Now, Mr. Mechanic Jonah would have been most older than early 50s, but then Bobby was still shy of 60, and he could sound just like this guy sometimes. It was weird, Dean thought, as he helped Jonah to his feet. This guy looked so much like their dad. Short dark hair dusted gray, unshaven face, warm brown eyes despite a surprisingly sharp look, and a tall fit body. He was also a mechanic. Cass had said there would be similarities between them and the other people here. But still, this was freaking Twilight Zone kind of stuff. And it bothered Dean that Sam didn't seem to notice. The brothers introduced themselves to Jonah and found out that he had driven into town from the neighboring town of Shepherd's Glen because of a call made to his shop. It had been fuzzy, barely audible, and all that Jonah had been surmised was that he needed to get to the main drag of Silent Hill fast for some kind of emergency. He brought his tow truck, but that had just died after he had passed the town sign. Sam and Dean could definitely relate.
"Don't even get the guy's name, but Shepherd's Glen's not far from here. Figured I could come on over and check anyway, in case this guy was in any serious trouble. Aw, good that did me," Jonah huffed. "Here I am, trapped now with those things about, and I can't even get a truck going with nothing wrong with it to start. Don't know if you boys believe in ghost stories or not, but this can't be normal."
Dean tried not to start.
"We're with you on that, pal. Look, now that we've found you, we need to stay together, okay? That truck's not gonna start. Trust me. The only way we're gonna get out of here is by working as a team. You, me, and—"
Dean looked around at Sam to indicate Castiel, who he had almost forgotten about, when he suddenly realized the angel was no longer there. Shit! Immediately, Dean had his shotgun ready.
Cass!
Startled, Sam fumbled around with his gun too, looking about frantically in search of their missing companion. Before they had the chance to really start panicking, Castiel suddenly came around from the front of the truck from the other side. Here, he said, clearly a bit ruffled, but also as if he didn't understand what was so urgent. I was just on the other side. I thought maybe we could start the truck. Those bright blue eyes looked so innocent and unsure of their own skin, like they had been that night Dean first met him. The sight of Castiel had Dean breathing relief, and he let his gun fall again while shooting the angel a worried glare.
Dude, what did I say about not running off like an idiot? Just stay close. I'd rather not have your mangled body on my conscience, okay?
Who's this now? Jonah asked, raising an eyebrow at the newcomer.
He's with us.
Dean spoke up right away, in case Sam or Castiel got in their heads that telling the truth would be a good idea in this situation.
Cass is a city guy. Not so much in the knowledge of guns and fending off monsters, if you catch my drift. But right now...
Dean glanced briefly at Sam and Castiel to make sure they understood the tactic of discretion.
Rather than play 20 questions, we need to get somewhere safe. I got my cell phone here. Seems that whenever one of those things is close,
it starts going off like a radio between stations. Jonah broke in. He reached into his pocket and pulled out what looked like a fairly high-tech walkie-talkie.
I notice. Most of the time, I've just been taking off whenever it gets crackly.
Good, Sam said. I think that's what we should all do, unless there's no other choice. We might need the ammunition. I don't suppose you noticed someone run by the truck a few minutes ago. Slam switched gears, reminding Dean that they were still technically looking for Aaron. There was another guy with us before. He ran off when we were attacked. I think he went into the park. Sam noticed, past the truck. Jonah's brown furrowed.
Didn't hear anything. Though it's hard not to notice on the ground, focused as I was. There's no real place to go beyond the park other than to that lake. It can't be far.
We should go and look for him. Sam looked at Dean, all eyes all sensitive and worried for this person they barely knew. But then, that was Sammy. Dean was the same, usually with strangers, that he wanted to help. He just didn't make it obviously apparent all the time. Wiping a hand down his face, Dean offered a responding nod, taking a moment to catch his breath, since they were going to have to go further into this haze, rather than find a safe harbor just yet.
Alright, Aaron first, then shelter. You with us, Jonah?
Dean turned to the mechanic, who offered us a smile that showed off slight, deep-set dimples. Dimples, like John Winchester's.
Safety in numbers, kid. I'm all for that, Jonah said. Not to mention a safety in a shotgun.
At least that had Dean smiling for a moment. He turned to Cass, who thankfully moved closer to them since being reprimanded.
We stick together. Hopefully we'll find Aaron soon, and then we can get somewhere safe.
Castiel twisted at Dean's words, almost as if to say there's no place safer. Awesome. But regardless of the dangers, everyone nodded their agreement to Dean's plan, and the four of them headed out into the park. First, Dean didn't notice the sound that began to permeate their surroundings. Not until Cass suddenly stopped short, Tulser scenting between his trench coat. A moment later, Jonah stopped abruptly too. At a distance, but growing louder by the minute, was the sound of a siren. Oh no. What is that? Sam hissed, sensing, no doubt, that this was a be tense and quiet kind of moment.
You don't know the half of it, Sam!
Jonah spoke first, groping for the pocket knife he had mentioned.
God, not again. We have to take cover now.
Castiel's voice practically shook, his eyes too human in their panic as he turned to look at Dean.
It'll not matter. We'll not be safe, but inside will be better than here. What's happening?
Dean stepped closer to the angel. The siren was becoming almost deafening. Jonah seemed to have already experienced this, and Castiel obviously knew what was happening. So far, it only seemed to be noise. A large wailing siren like the signal for a tornado. But even so, the look on Cass's face was enough for Dean to know that he should be afraid.
We should take cover, now.
Aaron was so far fending for himself.
Come on!
Dean pulled on Cass's arm, He reached over and pulled on Sam's swell, urging all of them to follow him.
Those apartments should be up ahead. No front entry lock, Aaron said. We'll go there. Move it!
Dean didn't really know what he was doing, but he definitely liked the idea of listening to Castiel rather than waiting around to see what that siren would bring. They danced across the street as a quickly moving group. Castiel and Jonah tucked between Sam and Dean. They moved past the inn, not wanting to risk it that it might be locked like the rest of the town, and continued to the next intersection. Dean soon spotted the Blue Creek apartment buildings up ahead, rallied everyone onward. His phone started crackling along the way. None of them were willing to stop and find out if creatures were nearby. When they finally reached the doors to the apartments, Dean could not have been more relieved to find them unlocked as Aaron had guessed. He ushered the others inside at first, Sam being the first to slip by them, but cast one last look out on the streets. Dean's blood ran cold. He couldn't explain it or describe it, or even fully grasp that he was actually seeing it, but the very concrete, buildings, distant truck, even, all of it was melting away like burnt-up bits of paper. And that will be the last chapter for this part. Oh, don't worry, folks. I'm coming back to this tomorrow, and maybe even Sunday. But for right now, I think I'll just give you my thoughts currently. Good golly, did the mood set up good. Good. This author did really well with the characters. I love how Sam and Dean are acting so far. Caring, snarking. This was everything I missed for Supernatural, what the current season's been going through. I like the feeling of Silent Hill, and of course, this author, unlike certain other Silent Hill crossovers, who does think, oh, just put the boys inside the town and forget all about the psychological bits, got it. I mean, I don't really have some conclusions to what each different item represents, the monsters that they've encountered so far. Oh, there's just so much more I can actually enjoy about this little fic. I just really enjoy it. So join me tomorrow and Sunday. I'll probably do some more parts to this as we go further into Silent Hill. You seem like you've been enjoying yourself these past few Fandom Fridays. Well, yes, Trixie, I was. As a matter of fact, I look forward to finishing this up by Sunday, and I look forward to next week. You are you? Well, yes, I've been really happy. Happy? Yes, I've been enjoying life. I think I could face the next fic without problems. Really? Because Trixie thinks it's about time for your medicine. What? I know something scary. Oh no. We've got another Von Doom fic. No. All lined up just for you. No. Yes. Come on. We can do any other fic, Von Doom. Any fic at all, Von Doom. No, we can do a fic by any other author. We're doing Von Doom. No, we can do anything. Join us next week on Fandom Fridays. Von Doom, Sailor Moon, and X-Men by Victor Von Doom. Hope you enjoy. No. That is scary, people. Really, it is.